G'day, folks. AoS Coach here, and I have a new Battletome to preview. Yes, I have the new Sylvaneth. I almost said Seraphon. The new Sylvaneth Battletome, 4th edition. I'm excited to talk about this. It's certainly different. So I don't know if leaks have happened by the time this video goes up. If you're joining us and there has been no leakage, I hope you enjoy this roller coaster of a Battletome. It's a lot of fun. It's certainly a little bit different. So first and foremost, Games Workshop sent me the book in advance. Thank you very much. I haven't seen this video. If you want to support the channel, Warpfire Minis, Element Games, or Gap Games, links are down below. And I'm joined by Zach Rockman, who is joining us from the deep, deep, deep of Gairan, down in the hollow forest where internet doesn't seem to penetrate because of all the foliage. Zach's having a few challenges with the internet, so he is joining us without his webcam on. I can confirm he's a very sexy man, and if he does launch his OnlyFans, you definitely should subscribe. Zach is joining us because he is a top-performing Sylvaneth player. He came 4th at CanCon Call to Glory, Team Australia, many, many accolades, and we've been talking a lot about this book, and it's certainly different, so strap in. Zach, g'day. What else does the internet need to know about you?
Hey mate, how you going? I'm currently the captain for Team Australia going into the next Worlds in 2026 down in Pescara, Italy. So very excited for me and my team. We've been grinding a lot to try and do our best, hoping for Australia's best performance this year. Been putting in a lot of work with the guys, got a whole support staff going over, so it's going to be a really good opportunity for us all. So yeah, I'm a Sylvaneth player. I also play almost every other army because I'm a insane man that commits too much time to Warhammer, and as much as my partner doesn't love it. And yeah, I'm very excited about this book. It's very unique, and there's a lot going on that's I'm really excited for. There's a lot of diversity in this book. I can already think of a couple of different builds that, a couple of different combos that will work well, and yeah, really excited to be here.
So, as a rep player, as someone who's played Sylvaneth and done incredibly well only recently, how have you found the transition from Index Hammer to this Battletome? So, spoiler, a lot has changed, and obviously, the big one is the lack of teleporting now in Sylvaneth. Now, you have gained a whole bunch, and we're going to talk about it. I'll bring up the rules and we'll unpack it all. But how are you feeling? Because this feels like a fundamental shift in play style. One of the biggest, potentially since I don't know if you remember this when Nurgle was super fast and you could slingshot from the feculent Narmor, and you could run and charge if you were within range of the Narmor. And Nurgle went from like the fastest army in the game to a really slow one, and the fundamental shift. There is a fundamental shift in Sylvaneth. How do you feel about this? And we will show you the rules.
Yeah, I feel really good about it. I think a lot of the index changes for some of the books that have fundamentally changed, such as Nighthaunt and Tzeentch and Lumineth, I've found have been really positive changes for the army. It's a good new direction that they're heading in. I'm really liking the alternative playstyle because I was getting a bit sick of because Third and the Indexes were quite similar books and they had quite similar playstyles. I was like, well, I'm playing the same army again and again and again. I'm doing the same thing again and again and again. I want to see my toys do different things. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I think there's a lot of diversity in the books that are coming out. Obviously, Lumineth are doing insanely well at the moment. That book is very strong. And it's not just one or two builds, it's a lot of different builds, which is very exciting to see because there's nothing worse than going to a tournament and having 8 of the same army and the same list all there. It's not a lot of fun. So yeah, and it also gives a lot of player expression, whereas before, you'd just be playing the same list and it would go the same way and it'd be a bit too rock, paper, scissors. But with this additional kind of flexibility to the Battletome, you've got the ability to express yourself as a player and the ability to lean into certain aspects that you might be good at and also improve on certain aspects that you might be bad at. So yeah, very excited on that front.
I'm going to give the same advice, Zach, that I gave on the doc video, and that is don't try to port your list from the one that you've been running like most recently and just straight into this. Really take a step back, pause, look at these rules, look at the toys in your toy box, and think about a new army structure. Not that like the list that you didn't you ran previously won't work, but you've now got new toys, new techniques, new things to play with. My advice would be take a step back and really look at how you maximize these new rules.
Yeah, for sure.
Any favorite model before we open up the Christmas present? I know my one. It's so easy.
I'm really excited for the Grove Guardian, and then I've also been a big stan for Twist World, as you can see by my CanCon list. So yeah, very excited for those two new units. Well, because the Twist World has changed quite a bit. And the Grove Guardian has some very cool rules, especially with Twist World.
Yeah, there's some cool new stuff. I'm gonna go with Mother Nature herself, Alariel. When I saw the rules and the points, I don't know how anyone can't take this in their army. Like it's so good.
She's very strong. Very good.
She is spicy. All right, I'm gonna stop teasing you guys and let's bring up the rules. We're gonna go through it as always. Starting off with the battle traits. So everything you know about Sylvaneth is gone. What I mean by that is the teleporting shenanigans, like all the strike and fade stuff and the things that you enjoyed. This is like I remember first looking at this going, oh man, I remember when Sylvaneth brought out that Army of Renown with Belthanos and how there was no teleporting and everyone got the shits because you couldn't use the trees and it obviously then put focus to the Spite Rider lances and things. And look, you've lost it. Like it's gone. Like there is still a few little teleports here and there, but that really, like when I look at this, you're very much like I guess like the mirror to Nurgle. You're super durable, but like forget my summary. Let's actually go through the rules. First off, the Creeping Overgrown. Start of the first battle round. The Creeping Overgrown is measured from each terrain feature that is a friendly overgrown token. The range of the Creeping Overgrown is based on a number of friendly overgrown tokens on the battlefield. As you can see, 0 to 1, 6 inches, 3 to 5, 9, 6 to 8, 12, 9 plus whole battlefield. What the F are you talking about, Anthony? That's a great question. So actually, let's rewind for a second and look at the updated Awakened Wildwood. So what happens? When this terrain feature is set up, you give it a friendly overgrown token, just a passive ability. Then ever-growing, start of the battle round, you pick the closest terrain feature to this terrain feature that does not have a friendly overgrown token. If the target is not controlled by an opponent, you give it a overgrown token. Then there's also an extra rule where you pick each enemy unit within 3 inches of the Wildwood, and it can do some damage. So, starting off with the Awakened Wildwood, we are going to expand and start giving out these overgrown tokens. Zach, anything at this particular point?
No, let's keep going.
Sweet. Cool. So just context. How do I get my tokens? It starts with the Awakened Wildwood. So as you can see here, we've got a bunch of Wildwood. Wildwood's going to start expanding, start giving out some of these overgrown tokens. Then I'm going to point you towards, there's a bunch of rules here when it comes to the army. You can see you've got 2 command abilities here. So the Land Awakens. At the end of your turn, you can basically bring back a unit at half strength. Not every unit is very much a non-hero Revenant infantry unit or a unit of friendly dryads. You've also got Endless Growth, which is a once per turn army end of any turn. Pick each friendly Sylvaneth unit that's wholly within the Creeping Overgrown growth to be the target. For each target, pick D3, roll a D3 and pick one of the following effects. You heal or return slain models. Reclaim by nature, once per turn, army your hero phase. You basically bring on another Awakened Wildwood as long as there is fewer than 3 on the battlefield. Creeping Dread, once per turn army, start of any turn. Pick an enemy unit with the Creeping Overgrowth to be the target. For the rest of the turn, the first time your opponent declares a command for the target while it's not wholly within 12 inches of a hero in their army, unless your opponent's spends 1 additional command point to use the command. The command has no effect. It still counts as being used for the purposes of spending commands. And then finally, Forest for Fury of the Forest, enemy command ability will cost you a CP. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within the creeping overgrowth and is in combat with 1 enemy to use the ability. You get strike first for the rest of the turn. That's a big change to the battle traits. Zach, talk to me about like where do we want to start and unpack this?
Yeah, well, that was a mouthful.
It is,
I think
especially after I just got a wisdom tooth pulled out. So shout out to people putting up with the.
I think the Land Awakens and the Endless Growth are 2 quite interesting changes. So the Endless Growth is pretty similar to the Index with the heal D3, but it changes in that return slain models, which is very good for some of the units that we weren't seeing a lot, such as Spite Revenants, Twist World, Triads, and Tree Revenants. And Tree Revenants also had a bit of a change, so they might be a bit more interesting with this change to Endless Growth. Also, the Land Awakens is very strong for that late game recursion. You've got a lot of fast moving, big hitting monsters already. Having those little scout units, having those little screens as the recursion, I think is really strong for the army, because at the moment we're seeing all the monster mash, but having that recurring screen I think is really interesting to list building. Or that annoying little objective grabber, grabbing an extra couple of Gossamids that can move 12 and grab objectives and do some shooting and support, and then if you lose them, they come back. Feels pretty good to be adding into most armies.
Can I also say as well, and I'm going to try to do this as best as possible because I clearly can't see Zach, right? So I'm trying not to interrupt you here. A couple of other quick things I'll call out with the endless regrowth. 1, obviously the fact that you can bring back slain models, which is great. But 2, it's not tied to the wildwoods. So in the past, you'd have to be purely based on wildwoods. This now gives you flexibility with the battlefield as that creeping overgrowth starts to hit the battlefield. So a lot of flexibility on that one.
For sure. And your opponent can't kill it, which is very good.
Yeah.
Well, they can kill some of them, the trees particularly, but if you've got that token on a central terrain piece, you're going to be getting that constant healing all the time, and it's going to be linking in with quite a few of your other abilities, as Sylvaneth still have their link to the overgrowth / wildwood. So yeah, it's very good that they can't kill your kind of faction traits, because there's always been a couple games from playing Sylvaneth where you couldn't cast the spell to get it out, or your opponent would kill your tree, and then you're missing half your rules because you're not within 12 or 9 of a tree, which is really good. Which kind of leads us on to the Reclaimed by Nature, which is just letting you basically set up a tree every your hero phase, which is really good because A, it's not linked to a spell, so you're not failing it all the time, because that's hurt me more than I can count. And it also is good because it also adds 1 token straight away to your table. So if you set 1 up in deployment, that's 1. Then you use the start of battle round, that's 2, and then Reclaimed by Nature in your hero phase, you're already up to 3. So you've already got a 9-inch aura of the creeping overgrowth, which is pretty powerful, and it's on 3 different terrain pieces, and that's just battle round 1. So, battle round 2 and 3, it's going to be getting up there very quickly.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And then when you start to combine it, and like there are a few ways to also manipulate that and play around with it, but it is a very generous little ability. And even like when I look at, say, for example, you start hitting the 3 tokens, that creeping overgrowth range is now 9 inches, where in the past you'd have to be within 6 inches of the Wake and Wildwood. So you're getting more flexibility, and that range is just going to start to become like hit the 9, the whole battlefield. That is crazy good.
Yeah, very, very strong.
Anything else? I mean, like obviously the strike first is obvious. Obviously as well, it's going to stop you from using all out attack or all out defense. So being able to use that in the combat phase is going to be a real deterrent for your opponent, especially with a really good unit, and might actually force them to use 2 units to go in, especially if you've got something very killy.
Yeah. So it does force your opponent to overcommit when they wouldn't want to. It prevents things like a big 14-inch move Archaon from running in and powering through and just doing that over and over again. Because you do have that strike first. It's also lethal on a counter charge. It is 3 CP, but you counter charge, you strike first, and your dearth is just going in and cleaning up units, which is, I think, very strong. I will say the Creeping Dread feels a bit situational. Doesn't feel like it's going to come up a lot. If your opponent's switched on, they're going to be able to have their heroes wholly within 12 of all their units, so that they're not taking that penalty. But it definitely could come up a few times where it is an extra annoyance for your opponent. But yeah, it does feel very situational and might only happen once or twice.
I think it's a really interesting one because, like, when you look at most armies, right, people are really trying for the 2 drops, if not 3 drops. And, like, there are a few sub commanders where they're sitting in a regiment, but most armies don't have that many heroes in their list, with the exception of, like, certain particular builds. And for those people who have gotten, like, for example, a Varangard, right? You don't need to be babysit by Abraxia. That's going to really make them think differently. Am I now needing to sit close to a hero? Am I going to be running the risk of burning a second CP? You're right. It's not going to be all the time, but it might force your opponent to bring that hero because they don't want to spend the extra CP. And it might force them into a situation that they wouldn't normally do because they can't afford to spend the 2 CP or
Yep.
3 on counter charge, right?
Yeah.
Someone who wants to counter charge, they're like, "Am I gonna spend 3 CP for a counter charge? No."
Yeah, and then also paired with, if you're got the right loadout, there's a few heroes that we'll get into later that can just pick off those little 5-6 wound heroes very easily. And then it becomes cool. That unit for the rest of the game is going to be spending 2 CP every turn if it wants to do anything, which is very annoying for something like Sentinels that want covering fire every turn, or anything that wants to counter charge or all that defense. Yeah, it's very big tax that can build up if you lean into it. I think it's not as scary as it looks, but it can be pretty interesting if you've in the right matchup or in the right kind of build with your list, and you kind of lean into it a lot to force that extra CP spending. So yeah, it's quite interesting. All the battle traits, while they work together, you can like lean into some more than the others. So yeah, very exciting.
I'm gonna ask you for your opinion on what you've lost in a second, but a couple of quick call outs from me. First and foremost, if you want to play into like the creeping overgrowth, you may want to consider something like the Lady of Vines, who plays into this really nicely. We'll talk more about the units in due time, but there are a few ways to kind of manipulate the overgrowth. For those who are really thinking about like maximizing the Land Awakens, what falls under non-hero revenant infantry, so that'll be your Gossamed archers, your spite revenants, your tree revs, your twist wheels, and obviously the dryads as well. So from my experience, like dryads can be very, very tanky when especially when you're reinforcing them. So and obviously the fact you can bring them back, and if you've got 1 health, you're always going to be bringing them back through the endless overgrowth. So nice little interplay there if you want to play with regen, and there's a lot of healing as well through this book. Surprise, surprise. Um, Anything else? No, I think that's all I wanted to call out. Anything else from you before I go to like what you've lost?
Yeah, also with the Dryad build, there's quite a few techie pieces, and they also work very well with the new Grove Guardian, which is what I'm most excited about. So yeah, let's get into things I've lost. The teleports and the strike and fade is the big thing lost here.
Yeah.
Um, So as sad as it is, and as fun as it is to send in your big monster that goes and bonks something and then strikes and fades back, and then your opponent doesn't do anything, it was. I have had a couple of people say this isn't fun, but while I'm having all the fun. I think it's a interesting change to the army. There are still a few units that we'll come to later that have these a similar strike and fade, and also your monsters do move quite fast. Like Alariel's moving 14, she's flying down the board. So you can still just spend the CP and power through. So it's not the biggest loss. I think that the most annoying thing is the teleport. I actually found was quite helpful for playing things like Kurnoth bows. Just because it was really good to be able to reposition them from one side of the board to the other, so you can shoot that big monster hero. You get the extra Ren from anti-hero. So that doing those kind of things is definitely worse for the army, but they've picked up a few different rules that make them quite a lot stronger at that fight in the middle kind of build, as opposed to this darting around. So yeah.
I think what's interesting is, like, when I look at these rules, and I don't want to harp on this too long, the rules seem to match the actual aesthetic of the model better. Like, when you look at Sylvaneth and like Kurnoth Hunters and certain units like Durthu, like, how are you striking fading? Like, how do you not see this thing walking through the forest, right? Like, it's now much more tankier, much more durable. I think it does play into certain models better now, where um yes, it's a change, and it's gonna take you a little bit of time to adjust to the change, but it's not a bad change, it's just a different change, and I think you're gonna see other units really flourish and do incredibly well.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Alright, and look, you know what, like, there are some teleporting, you're just not gonna get a lot of teleporting. Alright, let's hop on and continue. So I showed you the trees. This is the tree. The trees are the trees. Great, move along. That's the word, the battle formation. So you can see there are a few modifications. You can see Lord of the Clans has had a tweak. Outcasts have had a tweak. We've got two new battle formations. So Lord of the Clans, you'll notice that it says when using the endless growth ability, do not roll a d3 for monster targets. Instead, just heal flat d3. You can see Outcast here is completely rewritten. So in the Creeping Dread ability, replace while it is not wholly within 12 inches of a hero to wholly within 6 inches, which is much more brutal. And then there's also two new ones: the followers of Kurnoth. Once per turn, army your hero phase, pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit to be the target. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to hit rolls for the target's attacks while it's wholly within 12 inches of a an enemy general or an enemy war master. And then Glaive Defenders, once per turn, army any hero phase. For each friendly Sylvaneth unit or friendly awakened wildwood that was destroyed in the previous turn, you can pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit to be the target and add 1 to the attack characteristic of each target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn. What do we think?
So Lords of the Clan basically the same. Pretty good for those big monster builds. Lots of healing, lots of tankiness. So I do think that one is going to be around, especially with the change to the Tree Lord Ancient, which I'm very excited for as well.
So good. I can't believe I didn't say that as well. Oh my god, Tree Lord Ancient. Oh my god.
He's finally usable. It's been so many years of him just sitting on my shelf. I've got a reason to paint him now. Very excited.
I saw that rule.
Coded.
I saw that rule. I couldn't believe what I saw. I'm like, what? It's so
Yeah,
nice.
it's very strong. I think I was doing some math, and if you have enough insanity and enough command points, you can bring 3 units back in one turn.
Don't ruin Christmas. Don't ruin your birth.
But we'll get to that later. I think the Creeping Dread is, with the buff to Creeping Dread with Outcast, is pretty interesting. Outcast did used to be the -3 control in combat, which I did really like, but this is leans into that kind of anti-hero build. It feels like one that you'd kind of pick if you didn't really want to lean into the other ones. Yeah, it's not the biggest change in the world, but it does make your opponent have to play a lot tighter with where their heroes are, where their units are, or else they're spending so many extra CPs per turn. So that one's quite interesting to me. I don't know how good it's gonna be because I just feel like some of the other ones are really good. I'm a big fan of Glade Defenders, +1 attacks, and there is no wording in Glade Defenders that prevents Kurnoth from getting it, which has kind of been an issue from Kurnoth getting buffs in the previous index. So I really like that one if I'm going in for that scythe heavy build or the swords, or even throwing it on some bugs or my favorite twist wield, because it is just, +1 attacks for the rest of the turn, any hero phase. You do have to lose some stuff, but it does help you with the fight back after you've lost a unit, and you can kind of build into it. You might countercharge one small unit just to have it die so that you can give your big unit of Kurnoth or whatever +1 attacks in the next turn. Feels really good. I think the followers of Kurnoth is kind of weird. Very situational. It's very good if your opponent has a big enemy War Master, your Archelons, your Bellicors, your
Vordry.
Forge, your Kragnos, you do only get to pick one friendly unit to be the target. So I think it would be definitely broken if it was all of them, because Kragnos would die in about 3 milliseconds. But yeah, the +1 hit is kind of nice, but I don't think it's my favorite out of the bunch.
None of these are bad. You're right. Like the followers of Kurnoth is definitely situational, and you can take it to a tournament, and there'll be sometimes this is just amazing. There'll be sometimes where it's just completely useless.
Yep.
So I agree with you. Obviously, Lord of the Clans, you're running monsters makes complete sense. Great flat three. Outcasts and Glade Defenders are much more techy. I personally prefer Outcasts over Glade Defenders. I really like the idea of being able to manipulate CP. It's such a finite resource. But and if I'm going to play with that, I think Outcast making it wholly within 6, especially with like a lot of reinforced units in the game, I think it'd be very hard to keep an army wholly within 6 inches of a hero. So I think that plays with opponents quite nicely.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Definitely interesting.
There's nothing bad here though. Like I think that's the good thing. Like obviously there are some that are better than others. But
Yeah,
not bad.
I think they're all fine. It's not really like, a live or end. I'll die by this one, which some factions have in the past, where every army is just running the exact same battle formation. I think you can kind of build into any of them. They're all equally fine. Like there's not really an issue with most of them. There are some that will suit some builds, and there's some that will suit other builds, which is kind of something that we both mentioned that we like about the army. But it's Swiss Army knife. You got flexibility. It's great.
Yeah, and some people are gonna be upset to lose like the free spirits, for example, if you're running Cav to run and charge, and I think at the same time when I look at forest folks and free spirits that have disappeared, both of them were really restricted to you had to have like a non-Kurnothi infantry or Sylvaneth cavalry. So a lot of these are encouraging most of the book, as opposed to a specific build.
Yeah, and that's really nice. I think.
But obviously, people who love their bugs are going to be upset they don't get run and charge.
I mean, he's not going to be that upset when we go a little bit further.
I know, but like right now, they're going, "Oh, I lost my run and charge." Well, yeah, just calm down. Just calm down.
Just have a bit of patience. Wait, hold.
The story is unfolding. Heroic traits. So you can see that there are 2 plus a modification to Spell Singer. I'll go to Spell Singer first. You can see there a lot of scrapped wording. So basically, if this unit is a wizard, add +1 to the casting roll. If it's not a wizard, it can use Unbind as if it was a wizard. So this is a minor nerf. You've got your 2 new hero traits, one being Spirit of the Dark Forest, once per battle enemy hero phase. Pick a visible enemy hero to be the target, halve the target's move characteristic for the rest of the turn. And then Realm Root Guide, where once per battle, your movement phase, this unit can only use this ability if it's wholly within the creeping overgrowth. Pick this unit and up to 1 friendly Sylvaneth unit within the unit's combat range to be the target. Here's your teleport. Remove the target from the battlefield, set it up again wholly within the creeping overgrowth and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. I get the feeling we've got a clear winner on this page, but Zach.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think there's you can kind of pick any of them. +1 a cast is really nice, except it's that good situational. There's some very powerful spells. They've had quite a big rewrite to their spell lore, so I do think that one's probably going to be taken a lot. It's also the least amount of thinking, which is great. However, I do see the situational build for the Realm Root Guide. As I mentioned before, having that teleport on the Kurnoth bows is very nice to make sure you're always hitting something. But it is once per battle, so might not see as much play. And I was the only madman that was running Kurnoth bows recently, so I don't know how much that one's going to see play. And I do think the Spirit of the Dark Forest, while it is nice, it's pretty situational. If they don't have any big monster heroes, it's pretty much in the bin.
Do you see Realm Root Guide played offensively as much as defensively? Because I see people, and maybe it's just the destruction bro in me who just wants to charge and get up the board. Like, can I see a world where I am taking up Durthu and some Kurnoth hunters with swords or scythes or something, and because without the teleport, you're relatively slow. Is this a way to get up the board, hold a terrain feature, get it overgrown, and then just fight around that centerpiece or that area?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely some builds where you've got 6 scythes and a Durthu that are just going to sit in the middle of the board and wait for your opponent to charge into them and then just smash you off the board with, the 40 million damage that those units can do. So yeah, I do see that one getting a bit of play in some builds. It's definitely interesting. I think there are some builds, like your bug builds and your maybe your infantry builds that aren't going to see this one as much, but it is nice to have it on a Kurnoth build. So I do think if there's Kurnoth running around, I think this one's going to be taken probably almost every time.
Yeah, that's probably what I was thinking in my head. Like, if I was running bugs, probably not. Probably not taking dryads. Although, in saying that as well, like top of turn 2, I've got more like 3 of those tokens. So my aura's 9 inches. Even if I don't land the charge, if you're within that 9 inches of the terrain, you're creeping overgrowth. You can do the strike first in the enemy combat phase, which then makes them second guess if they're going to try to engage with those units. So there's some interesting play. And then to your point, like Gossamer archers or Kurnoths with bows, you can get them out of harm's way. So I personally like this one, but it is once per battle.
Yeah. Definitely if you're building into that kind of build, I think it's very good, but I do see that Spellsinger is kind of a good choice for some of those other builds. And, it's a pretty good buff just all around because the spell lore is very strong, which we'll get to in just a second.
Yeah. It is a minor nerf because Spellsinger used to make a non-wizard a wizard 1. Now it's just giving them unbind.
Yeah. So you want that +1 a cast, probably on that Tree Lord Ancient because spoilers, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Like if you're gonna take Spellsinger, you likely already have a wizard. I'm probably not making a non-wizard into a wizard unbind.
Yeah, for sure.
That's probably where. Yeah. All right. Cool. Overall, I think some really interesting stuff here. Artifacts of Power. We've got a rewrite to the Seed of Rebirth and 2 new artifacts. Seed of Rebirth is a passive ability. The first time this unit would be destroyed, roll the dice on a 3-up. It's not destroyed. Remaining damage points disappear and it heals D3. You have the Amberglade Nectar, which is a once per battle, any combat phase. Pick a visible enemy unit within 6 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of companion weapons used by friendly Sylvaneth units for attacks that target that enemy unit. And then you've got the Witchwood Glaive, which is an end of any turn ability. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to this unit's combat attacks to be the target. Subtract 1 from save rolls for the target for the rest of the battle. You can use this ability even if the unit has been destroyed.
Yeah. I think they're all pretty good. Seed of Rebirth saw a lot of, play last index. Putting it on your big monster is really nice to keep it around for another turn, and there's quite a lot of healing that you can put out with this army, so definitely very strong. I think the Amberglade Nectar does a whole extra bunch of damage when you're running that big bug build. Giving them +1 damage on those mandibles is just great once per game. You can almost table your opponent when you're getting up to damage 3 on, a bunch of attacks. And I think the Witchwood Glaive is probably a little bit weaker. I don't see this one getting a lot of play. It's funny. It's very funny if you've got a small hero running around that's doing some damage, making a -1 save and running away, and then when that unit comes in, it's it's not a 4-up save, it's over 3-up. But yeah, I do think the Seed of Rebirth is probably going to be in those Monster Mash heavy builds, or even in some of the infantry spam builds, and then you'll probably see the Amberglade Nectar with the bugs as they put out a lot of damage with that +1. So yeah.
I can see the Witchwood Glaive going on something like an Arch Revenant, but otherwise, I agree with you. Like Amberglaive Nectar or Seed of Rebirth is going to be the play. And like as I was thinking about like Amberglaive Nectar, because there's no real restrictions, it works in Alariel, Belthanos, Dryka, your Grove Guardian, your Spite Rider Lancers, your Revenant Seekers. Like that's brutal. Like you can buff Alariel or Belthanos, right? So
Yeah.
obviously you've got to be like, having a little combination here, and it is only short range within 6 inches, but that could be brutal.
Yeah, for sure. It does have to be visible, and there's a lot of obscuring around at the moment. So, you'll probably be having a charge in that unit that you give it to. So it's probably wanting to go on something that's pretty fast. So even an Arch Revenant, just so it can get down the board. But yeah, that +1 damage is really nice. It's a very strong buff, and yeah, it's just on the go turn where you get the +1 damage, and that big important unit just falls over it a lot quicker. It's very strong.
Are you going to miss the Crown of Fell Boas or Greenwood Gladius?
Probably not. These ones look pretty good.
Yeah, and obviously the Seed of Rebirth is good as well because you're not just ending on a flat heal 1, like you've got the ability to go to up to 3. So I can see that one being the most popular.
Yeah. And then, pair it with on a Durthu with Lords of the Clan, and he's back to full health in no time.
And you're gonna notice that a lot, folks, is like Alariel, for example, has a great healing, right? So like there's all these little combinations where I think I worked it out, like on average, Alariel could heal like up to 10 before a rally. So like if you don't kill Alariel in one go, it's like, why did I even bother?
Yeah. I actually think if you want to go all in, you can get her up to, you could heal her to full from 1 wound on average dice rolling with a bunch of prayers and spells. It's just ridiculous.
This is what I was saying. Like, it's the reverse of Nurgle. Like, instead of like being stupidly annoying with like wards and stuff and like debuffs, like you're just gonna heal to the nines, and it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm getting if Doc didn't drop the exact same time, I'd be getting the itch to restart my Sylvaneth. I did have like a 15. I did have a 15 Kurnoth Hunter list once, and I had the models. I am getting the itch. Speaking of spells, Zach, you know what? You can talk at the spells. You've mentioned it many times that you've gotten an upgrade, and you can see here it is a brand new spell lore. You've got Jade Thorns, Zephyrite Rush, and Grasping Roots. All very fair casting value, 6, 6, and 5. What do you like about this spell lore?
So Jade Thorns is pretty interesting. It's almost a Temu or a Wish.com version of the Scourge of Ghyran Drutch's War Scroll spell. Instead of giving the extra +1 attack, it's just a limited +1 a wound. For an army that has a lot of wounding on 3s and 4s is very good. Especially on those Spite Rider Lancers or the Revenant Seekers, or even just a unit of Twistweld. +1 a wound is just great. And having it unlimited, if you've got extra casts, it's just free real estate.
I'm glad you called that out, because I was going to say, and it's unlimited. Like, that's so good.
And then, the rush for the run and charge, very good. You can see also these casting values are low, which is good, meaning like if you've got that +1 a cast from the spell singer, like these spells are going off more times than not. So yeah, run and charge is really good, especially on a spell. It used to just be tied to Belthanos, so you can be bringing this in almost every build. It's really good because your army isn't very fast. With Durthu was just strolling around at 5 inches, and you're like, come on, man, get in the game, show some enthusiasm. And then Grasping Roots is really good, just because you can turn off people redeploying, which is really good. Turning off redeploy is great because there's nothing worse than having your opponent roll a 6, and then you fail all your charges and you're just standing there waiting to get absolutely smashed in the face. So it's got an 18-inch range, which is really nice. So you're probably going to be hitting that, which is really good. And then if your opponent has run and charge, turning off run and charge and making them -1 charge isn't bad for a casting value 5 spell, and especially on a counter cast. Like, that can be pretty brutal to some armies, especially like those slow moving, brute rages or Khorne that has the whip guy. Just not being able to get down the board as fast is some really good utility.
The Grasping Roots as well can be punishing for someone who wants to countercharge as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Or even if someone's trying to redeploy onto an objective, you can just say, no, that will stay mine one more turn. Which is, very good.
That's brutal. Yeah, I really like this spell lore. Yes, you've lost Dwellers Below. Yes, you've lost a few other spells, but I think you've won. I think you won on this one. You've got more than you've lost.
Yeah, you've got like different utility, which is good. I do think the +1 rend around a tree is going to be missed. That was one of my favorites, as it just, I was playing quite a lot of infantry spam. I had a lot of units, and it was just a good buff to everything. So that one's probably going to be missed the most. But yeah, these 3 are great. I can't really complain too much. So yeah.
Well, anyone who saw Warcom today, and I said by today, I mean the day of recording, will have seen that you have not only a prayer lore, but you've got multiple priests in your army, which is kind of cool. You've got two. You've got the Grove Guardian and the Warsong Revenant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 priests. The 2 priests.
Yeah, the Warsong has fallen from being a wizard to a priest, but he's got some pretty sick rules. So, and these prayers are pretty good, so you'll probably be wanting to chop them in anyway.
Something really interesting as well is the interaction of the priest and the creeping grove, something I've never seen before. That's super interesting because like now you can start to measure not just from the range of the chanter, but actually from a creeping overgrowth, which is super fascinating.
Yeah, so you did used to have that with the dwellers below, getting that 5-up horde clear used to be pretty good because you could throw it through a tree from anywhere else, and now they've thrown that into all the prayers, which is very nice. I do think there's 2 winners and a loser. The Song of Lost is very good, -1 a wound, and that extra heal, if you get that 8+, as well as if they're not a monster, ignore modifiers to save rolls, positive and negative. That's really strong, especially on dryads. Like you're gonna be -1 to hit, you're gonna be -2 to wound, and they'll be ignoring all rend, and they've got all that recursion from the previous battle traits we saw. That feels like just such a roadblock and so annoying. And then the Song of War is pretty good. That's kind of replacing the spell that would give out the aura of +1 rend. Now you just give it to 1 unit, and then you can give it to a second unit if you get on a 10+. Bit of a high chanting value, so not ideal, but you can just bank up those points. Then when it's go time, you just go you and you, off you go. So that's pretty good. So, on your Kernoff swords or your bugs, just giving them that extra rend is really nice. And not having it tied to a tree gives you a lot more flexibility on where you want to be hitting your opponent. And the Song of Dread, I think, is not as strong. It feels kind of weird. You get to do some D3 more wounds every time they finish a move ability within the creeping overgrowth. So that could be board wide, but it's probably only going to be when they use a normal move and then when they use a charge. So it's only like 2d3 mortal wounds. So it's not amazing, but could be situational in picking off those last couple wounds of a hero or a unit that's running to grab an objective. And it can pair kind of nicely with some of the other damage spells because you can get quite a lot of D3s being spread out across those squishy little foot heroes.
I was just triple checking the Battletome. I'm like, did I forget half the text on Song of War? No, the Battletome. Because I'm like, what happens if I roll a 5? Like, what happens? And the answer is nothing. Like, I was just triple checking I didn't mess this up. It's like, nope, it just goes straight to if this chanting roll was a 10+. So interesting. Very interesting little one. So, like, why would you chant this? Like, you would go for a lower. It doesn't matter. Like, why would you chant this until you hit the 10? Unless you, I guess, spike. Like, there's no benefit, right? There's no benefit if you roll anything before a 10.
Yeah, I think that's worded a bit weird.
Yeah, like I was just triple checking the Battletome, and unless they've missed something in the Battletome, there's no benefit by hitting the 5. None. Or am I making this up? Is there some benefit? I don't see.
Okay. Well, now I'm panic checking because I thought that there would be, so I'm going to look at a different prayer quickly.
Look, Song of War. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth priest to chant this. I'm reading this off the Battletome, not off my page. Chant this prayer. If pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that's wholly within the creeping overgrowth or is visible to them and wholly within 12 inches of them to be the target, then make a chanting roll of D6. Cool. Effect. If the chanting roll was 10+, you can pick another eligible unit to be the second target until the start of your next. So if they just messed up the wording. Okay. Is it just on a 5-up, you get +1 rend, and on a 10+, you get a second unit?
Yeah, that's how I assumed it.
Yeah. It's just weird. It's just weird that they've started the effect as if the chant was a 10+. You normally have that at the back. I'm going to assume that's what it was meant to do.
Yeah, like Song of Lost. That's how you usually lay it out.
Every prayer is normally effect and then enhanced effect. I'm going to assume that was what it was meaning to do.
Yeah,
that's really weird. Really weird. By the way, good prayer law. I guess the question for you then is the prayer law so strong that you will force yourself to have a priest in every list?
I think so. I think having -1 to wound is a very good debuff, especially on monsters. You can slap that on a Lariel. It's pretty nasty on her, especially with all the healing. If they, are -1 to wound and they miss killing your units by 1 or 2 damage points, like it's gangbusters because you got so much healing that they're going to be back tip top in no time. And that prayer is unlimited, so you might even see 2 priests running around in most lists. I've been having a bit of a think, and I do think I'll probably be running both priests in my lists when this book finally drops. And additionally, the +1 Ren's really nice for the go turn. So yeah, definitely see priests being a staple of pretty much every list.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff here. Real and like I was gonna think like even if I take a Lariel, like no, I'll try to find space for a priest because a -1 to wound rolls, and even if you get like, is it cogs and slow down time for a -1 to hit as well, like you
Yep.
can go very defensive. And the Song of Lost is worth a priest alone.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
so I think I'd definitely be looking for every priest opportunity.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything else, Zach, before we move on to
I want to talk about these units.
All right.
That's what I've been waiting for.
All right. Calm your farm. All right. That is your faction rules. Overall, feeling pretty good. Yeah, we lost a few things, and yes, certainly our identity has changed a little bit, a lot. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's a little different, and different isn't bad. But some people are
Yeah.
gonna crack the shit. People are gonna crack the shits. They're like, I miss my strike and fade. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sorry, but I'm having fun, so off you
Can't
go.
help you there. Can't help you there. Like if you miss it, like it's gone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What I'm not sorry about is your new unit, the Grove Guardian, our first priest, and it's a priest 2. So the Grove Guardian is a move of 4, save of 5, control 2, health of 7, uh, Grove Sickle or Shears, melee attack, 3 attacks, 3s, 4s, Ren 1 for D3, Guardians Sprites, 6 attacks, 4s, 4s, Ren 1 for D3, Crit Mortals, Companion. That's fine. It's okay. Um, you've got 2 abilities. Well, one's a chant, one is an ability. The Soul Shriek is a passive ability where each time a model in a friendly non-hero revenant unit wholly within 12 inches of and visible to this unit is slain by a combat attack, and that model was in combat with the attacking unit. Roll a number of dice equal to the slain model's health characteristic. For each 5 up, inflict 1 mortal damage on the attacking unit after the fight. So it's kind of like Daughters of Cain Crystal Touch a little. Then you've got Regenesis in the hero phase, chanting value of 4. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is wholly within the creeping overgrowth or that is visible to and wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. Make your chanting roll. If the training roll was a 6+, you can pick another eligible unit to be the second target. They've done it again. If the target is a Revenant Infantry or a Dryad unit, return up to D3 models to the target unit. Otherwise, it heals 3 that target.
Yeah, big fan. Big fan. I think having, the Grove Guardian hanging out behind 20 Dryads feels like a very strong combination because you've got the passive recursion into the Dryad unit of D3 coming back each turn. You've got doing mortals when you get hit. So if they kill a whole unit of Dryads, that's 20 dice, 5 ups to doing mortal wounds. That's, nothing to walk away from. And then you can also just make that unit be super annoying with the returning D3 models to the target unit, especially on the Revenants. So on your Spites or on your Tree Revenants or your Twist World, bringing back D3 is just great. D3 models, so you can get up to 6 wounds for that. So that feels really good. And then you've also got that extra healing just on the big monsters as well. So you can heal 2 units, 3, and then you've got the Lords of the Clans, so they're healing another 3, so that's 6 already there. And So it's pretty gnarly with that Regenesis prayer. And then the funny thing is, you can give the Guardian Sprites +1 damage once per game, and it's got crit mortal, so it's can actually do some damage in combat.
It's also worth calling out that this unit is 220 points at this time of publishing. So, and the regiment formations is any Sylvaneth unit. It can't go into any other regiment. It's not like a Forest Sentinel or anything, but it's rather flexible with what goes into its regiment. Its base size only is 90 by 52, so it's not the biggest base size in the world either. So, like, generous, but not crazy big.
Mm. Yeah. So probably about the same size as a war song. So these two are probably going to be hanging out together in some
Actually,
lists.
smaller. It's smaller. It's smaller than the war song because the war song's on 105 to 70, which is the same as Dryker. So this one's just under 90 by 52. So it's slightly smaller than war song.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Mm.
So yeah, I think she's pretty good. The Grove Guardian. I think there's quite a lot of different builds that you can see her in. Being a priest too is really nice because you just get to go, bank points, and then here's the chant, and you get it off pretty much every time as long as you don't roll a 1. So yeah, very good. And the Soul Shriek paired with the amount of recursion you can get into the Revenant kind of build is very strong. Just to have that constant chip damage from when you're getting fought. Like, if I had this during Twist World, people would have killed themselves before Durthu had gotten in to fight them. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Soul Shriek and the Regenesis prayer. So I think you're gonna see her around quite a bit.
Is she auto include? Like, does every list have the Grove Guardian?
I don't know if every list, but I do think probably like we're getting to like 80%, 90% of lists will probably be rocking the Grove Guardian. So definitely a good model to pick up. I'll be pre-ordering mine as soon as I can.
Yeah, yeah. And 220 is pretty fair for a double priest, and considering how good your prayer law is, unless you're gonna go like double War Song Revenants, and I'll talk about the points as well. War Song's 150, so you could go almost for that same price, double War Song, and do 2 unlimiteds, and I guess you talked about that as well. So that's probably maybe the only way I maybe don't take a Grove Guardian is going for 2 unlimited prayers, but otherwise, pretty solid.
Yeah, pretty solid. Yeah, I think probably the monster builds, or the we'll probably be looking at, 1, maybe 2 war songs. War Song's pretty good as well. But we'll get to that a bit later. I do think that you'll probably see the Grove Guardian rocking around a lot. Pretty cheap for the amount of prayers you get. And has, decent combat that she, could fight a little thing off that comes together. And I just really like the Soul Shriek, especially with a lot of builds. So it's just a very strong bonus you can get. I'd probably be rocking a Grove Guardian and a War Song.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a big amount of points of what 370 for those two models. So
Yeah.
look, overall, I think it's a good unit. I don't think it's auto include. It's definitely like A tier. It's a very good choice if you take it. I think 220 is very fair as well. And maybe even if it goes to like 250, I think it's still a good choice. Start going to 300. I'm questioning that there's no ward save, and is it really worth 300? But for 220 right now, and even up to 250 if it does get a points hike, I think it's pretty good. I'd happily take it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably going to be taking it in all my lists at the moment.
Reminds me of Crethusa in My Daughters of Cain. So I'll be ready to get into the meat. There's a lot of changes. A lot of changes. All right.
Yes.
Let's start with Mummy. Let's start with Alariel. So, look, I'm not going to read out every little change here because my mouth is sore and we'll be here till Christmas. And this is not story time with Coach. But what we will do is let's call out some of the things that we really like, or maybe we need to be aware of. I'm a really big fan of Alariel. 600 points now, so Alariel's gone down 80 points. And while her save has gotten a little worse, she's improved her ward save, and the recursion is just through the roof. What are your thoughts? I'm going to give you first conversation on all of these units. What do you want to say about Alariel?
The Goddess of Life ability is the big one. That's why you're going to be taking her. It's a big change. It's once per battle, your movement phase, 2 CP, which is, I think this is the first ability that costs 2 CP outside of countercharge on a war spell, which is, I'm a big fan. Have good abilities, cost 2 CP anyway. You bring a whole unit back and they take 8 damage. So she can bring herself back. She could bring 6 bugs back even, and then you lose one from that 8 damage points allocated to it. So it's very strong. Got a lot of utility. It does cost 2 CP, so it is expensive. So yeah, that's probably the big one. That's why you're taking her. And she's also changed her life bloom to be heal 2d6 any hero phase. So you bring Alariel back, she's taking 8 damage, then she heals 2d6 plus the either 3 from Lords of the Clan, and she's back to full in one end turn / hero phase. So very strong. Definitely gonna be running her in a lot of lists.
Yeah, I can see for 600 points. Yeah, it's such a good little unit. Seasons of War as well is certainly an interesting ability to be able to give yourself, a +1 to casting. You can do some shenanigans with the Awakened Wildwood. You can do retreat and charge. And you can, as you see there, each time you use a Creeping Dread ability in the battle round, you can pick up to 3 targets instead of 1. So a lot of flexibility there, plus everything you've just talked about. So, so good. Like, it's very good.
Very strong. The retreat and charge, I think, is the big one. That's really nice. You get to pop it at the start of the battle round, and it gives you a lot of flexibility and running away and smashing things, and yeah, very good. Her spell's gotten a bit better. 2d3 plus throw out that overgrown token if they destroy a unit, and then extra d3 damage on each unit within 6 of the target is pretty good at that end game when you've got all your overgrown tokens down. And also you've got a very good spell lore to pair her with. You take the Reaping for +1 a cast. It's pretty solid. And a nice quality of life is I do like that the living battering ram does pick any unit rather than infantry, because that was annoying where you'd go into games and there'd be a all cav list with like 4 dry, and you'd be like, cool, this does nothing.
It's worth calling as well, the Rite of Life has disappeared and obviously replaced by the Goddess of Life. So, yes, it's a once per battle ability, but you're not going to be rolling the 4 ups for that replacement unit with half the model. So that has been lost. But you have gained +1 damage on the charge with the Spear of Kurnoth. So
yeah, so popping her up to damage 3 is pretty nice.
And drop 80 points. So she's 600 now. That's so good. Like,
so it's gonna be in every list. I think she's very strong. I can't see a reason why you wouldn't take her.
Yes, yeah. Look, yes. Look, I don't think you have to run a Lariel, but it's very well priced. You are having a good time.
It's good value for your money.
Yeah. But not to forget about old Belthanos, who is sitting over there. Anything that you want to call out with Belthanos? Very, very popular in lists at the moment. Has been for a while.
So yeah, the big thing is losing his run and charge to 3 units. He was very good at that. He has come down quite a lot of points.
290. So 290. So drop 60. I will share the points at the end if GW hasn't popped it up by now.
So yeah, very losing that's pretty big, but he is quite cheap, and he is one of the units that can effectively strike and fade. So if he's charged this turn, at the end of turn, he can just hop away more than 6, which is really nice because you could maybe sneak onto an objective that your opponent's trying to screen out, and you got a bit of flexibility there. And I think the most important thing to point out is it's just if this unit's charged. So if you've killed the thing you're in combat with, you can still get out of there, which is really strong, because sometimes you'd overkill what you'd hit and you wouldn't be able to strike and fade, and you'd kind of be stuck there. So it's a very nice change for Belfanos. I think he won't see as much play. He was a bit of an auto include. But I do think he is good, and he probably will see a bit of play, especially in those monster mash builds, being kind of a little solo piece that's hanging out on the side, doing what he does best, which is whiffing.
Yeah, he's a real rocks and diamonds unit, but again, like for 290 right now, dropping 60 points, it's not a bad little unit. I think the challenge you're going to find as we go through this is that other units have either dropped in points or increased in rules, as we've already talked about, like Spirit of Earthu. We've talked about the Tree Lord Ancient, and there's a lot of really good choices competing for your points. So it'd be fascinating. Like if you take an Alariel, for example, then that's already 1/3 or just under 1/3 of your list.
Yep.
Lady of Vines. There's a lot of tweaks there.
Yeah, she was an interesting one. She did go up in points. I think she went up about 50 points.
Yes, so she actually went up 70 points, so she's 280. 280.
Yeah.
Which is the same price as a Tree Lord Ancient. And close to Belfanos.
Yeah, so quite a lot more expensive, but she is quite a lot better. She moves a bit faster. She's got a bit more health. She's got a 5-up ward, which she didn't have before, which is very nice. Just keep her around. And then she does have a new rampage, which just lets you cast a spell through the overgrown terrain, which is pretty nice. There's a few spells you'd probably wanting to be doing that. That no run -1 to charge is kind of nice, getting thrown through that. So yeah, pretty solid for that one. And then her protection of the Everqueen spell, getting +1 to cast just on its War Scrolls, really nice, because the amount of times you fail that is in the millions. So having that 5-up ward aura is very nice. Getting that +1 to the roll. But I do think she has quite a lot of synergy just being able to give an overgrown token to a target once per battle, just getting that ball rolling quickly. And it doesn't have the restriction of your opponent not having to control it. It's just bigger thing, put a token, which is really good, especially for getting your abilities into your kind of enemy's castle early.
Yeah, you can play really aggressive with her, get her up, in front, in the mid board sooner. One, obviously giving that friendly overgrown token. Two, the fact that she's got the ward, the ranged weapon is now Ren 2, like and her health is now 10 where it used to be 8. You can be a little bit more aggressive with the Lady of Vines. So I think there's some good stuff in there. But her points did go up significantly as well. So certainly around that 300 mark, she has a lot of competition.
Yeah, I think that's the issue with her for me at the moment, is it's quite a lot of points. There's a bit of competition. And I think there's probably things that just are a bit better at the moment from my perspective. I would like her to probably drop a couple, and then she's definitely worth being taken. And I will miss her rampage of either giving a unit +1 or -1 a hit. So I do think it's good changes. I just think, yeah, she's a bit expensive, and you're getting into the range of most of the other big monster heroes, and it's a bit of, I don't know if she's worth it for the points.
Around that 250 to 300 mark, you got Belthenos, you've got Dryka, you've got the Guardian Grove, you've got Durthu, you've got Lady of Vines, you've got Tree Lord Ancient, before we start even reinforcing, our units. So a lot of competition at the 300 mark, as I've already kind of alluded to. Speaking of other heroes, so we've got Dryka, we've got the Warsong Revenant, we've got Arch Revenant, Branch Witch, and the Tree Lord. I'll say the points first, and then we'll go through them. So Dryka is sitting at 250. Warsong Revenant, I've already talked about, 150. Arch Revenant is 130. Branch Witch is 100, and Tree Lord is it's not a hero. This is just generic Tree Lord. 260. 260. By the way, at the end, I will have all of them on one, so you don't have to be writing and scribbling again if Warcom hasn't gone up by now. Anything around Dryka, and I'm obviously specifically avoiding a soggy Dryka because we've got her for a couple more months, probably 3 at the most. This is our moving forward Dryka.
Yep. Yep, for sure. I think this War Scroll looks great. She gained the extra move and health from the Scourge of Gyran War Scroll, which is nice because having her 10 health, she'd probably get punched over quite a bit. And she lost basically all of her abilities and gained a whole bunch of new ones that are frankly just better. The melee weapon being at 20 attacks, 4s, no ran, damage 1 with crit mortal, it being companion paired with that +1 damage is the first thing that popped into my head as a combo. 20 attacks with crit mortal, damage 2 is pretty strong. It's pretty nuts. It is 4s, but you got that +1 wound from the spell, and you can always all out attack. So it's pretty gnarly. The no run or retreat while they are within 9 of this unit is also really strong, as I spoke about before, with not being able to run is really good because people can't redeploy. So you can definitely be hitting your charges. And then Enrage the Spites as a spell, it's pretty solid, just 3 units. Either within 12 or within the Creeping Overgrowth, just take flat D3. Similar to the Warsong spell in the index being on Drycha is really nice. Definitely comes in handy. Picking off those key units, grabbing the intercept targets, putting the pressure on. Very nice. But the big one, I'm a big fan of Drycha, is the Merciless Ambush, which is she gets to
good.
from across the board. So from downtown, if she hasn't run off retreat, she just gets to charge in as long as she's wholly within the terrain feature of it with an overgrown token. And it does let her charge, so it means she can hit something, and then she can power through out, and she moves 10, so you can hit something in the back line, and then power through, grab an objective, do whatever. So yeah, the Merciless Ambush is very strong. It's very cool, and I really want to run Drycha.
And people thought the Ogoroid teleporting was good. This is next level good. You're like, the psychological warfare that you're going to put your opponent on, statistically, like on average, an 8-inch charge. Look, a 7 is like the 2d6 average. So am I now just going to be avoiding like 8 inches from every overgrown terrain, especially like as the game starts unfolding, or am I just like feeding Dryka at this particular point? Like, that's so good.
Yeah, it's really good. And if your opponent wants to play, I'm gonna stay 8 away from pretty much all terrain features. It's like, okay, cool. I'll score the objectives, and yeah, the psychological damage is gonna be quite hard. Yeah, so it's
Nice little combo if you bring in the Lady of Vines again. You chuck that extra overgrown token in the middle of the board. Now Dryka's jumping out anywhere, and that's terrifying.
yeah, she's gonna be a real menace. And she can kind of play the flanks really well because she can be somewhere, you don't have to use the ability, so you can go fight on the flanks. Then if she's needed on the other side of the board, she just hops across and does quite a bit of work. So yeah, I'm a very big fan of Trycha, and I think it's a very cool rule. Yeah.
Warsong Revenant has obviously lost the wizard. It's now a priest. It has lost a few rules, and you've now gained this rousing. I can't. Why can't I pronounce that word right now? Accompaniment. My mouth is killing me, by the way. Like, don't get your wisdom teeth removed, people, and don't record podcasts immediately after you get it done. Just like FYI, if you make an unmodified chanting roll of 1, you can re-roll the chant. Like, that's really good considering, especially if you've got your Guardian Grove where you're a double chanter and the ability to re-roll that 1. Especially if you're trying to go for that 10 plus prayer.
Yeah, very nice. It just helps so much having a reroll 1. We did see that on Scourge of Gorans and Nestra with her very fair and balanced prayer. Definitely wasn't broken at all. So yeah, having that reroll 1, especially on those, is just really nice to make sure you're constantly getting those prayers out. That -1 a wound or the recursion's really nice. And the Warsong has kept their song, giving the 6-up ward wholly within 12 and the -1 to ward within 12. So that was one of the best abilities from the Warsong. So keeping that is gangbusters, especially with him going down to 150 points. So yeah, as always, I think the Warsong's going to be playing a big role in most Sylvaneth armies.
Yeah, a good support piece, and yeah, it's a good support piece. Archrev is just Archrev. Like, what was I looking at? There was something I was looking at going, I can work with the Gossamids, but I'm like, am I just doubling down on something? Like, do I really need it? I don't know. Like, Archrev is fun. I think we called it out a little earlier around like the Archrev being able to, follow up and support Alaria with that 6-inch rule. We spoke about a little earlier. Where do you stand on this particular unit? Like, you're so spoiled for choice.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see the Archrev a lot. I'm not the biggest fan, to be honest. Being able to have your Gossamids shoot an extra time is, kind of nice. They do some okay damage. Unfortunately, Gossamids did go to 4s to wound on their shooting attack, which isn't great. So I don't know if they're my biggest fan at the moment. Also because you're spending a lot of points to get all that. It doesn't really do a lot. The fight and fly is actually kind of nice if you wanted to run that -1 a save if they've taken damage. And you can kind of play this Archrev as going in, giving something -1 a save, jumping out, and then being the annoying little harassment piece, inflicting -1 a save around. But it's very situational and it kind of goes wrong pretty quickly for the Archrev if you're doing that playstyle. So I don't think you're gonna see him.
No, if you're gonna go for like some little support piece, like we talked about, was it the artifact, like, or heroic trait? It makes complete sense, but otherwise it feels cute. And I don't have 130 points to spend on cute.
Exactly.
The Branch Witch. What was I looking at on the Branch Witch? I really do like the Slay the Trespassers. That's a nice little rule.
Yeah. So the branch which has kind of changed because you now have that strike first as a command ability in the battle traits, which used to be given out. But the +1 a wound is really nice because it's pick an enemy unit that's within the creeping overgrowth. So that's pretty much wherever at a certain point. There's a 3-up, which is a bit annoying, but your entire army getting +1 a wound in combat into that enemy unit, especially for an elf army that hit wounds on 4s, I think is really nice. So I could see the Branch Witch getting a bit of play. She's a wizard. for 100 points and you get +1 a wound on an enemy unit, that's pretty much that gets to board wide at a certain stage. Yeah, I definitely think you'll probably see the Branch Witch around. Not the strongest unit in the book, but is a nice little support piece for 100 points that you can just throw in it when needed.
Especially if you're running like the Monster Mash, for example, where points are limited. You put spell singer on it, 100 points, it's nothing. Getting +1 to the cast, it's cheap access to the spells while some of these other units are your prayer law. I don't mind it. It's not bad. Like it's very cheap for a wizard.
Yeah. And especially given that buff out to like some Spite Revenants or something, it's very good. And yeah, 100-point wizard is as cheap as you'll get for a wizard, so yeah, can't be too mad.
No. Your Tree Lord. So that's like this is a primer for the Tree Lord Ancient coming up next. Don't mind this at all. Don't mind this one at all.
Yeah, I think he's pretty cool. I like the extra moving 6. Yeah, 1 inch might not be a lot to some of you, but it's a lot to me. But yeah, that extra kind of ability and tech with the -1 to hit from the shooting attack is also any shooting phase, so you can covering fire and then use the ability, which is really nice. And it's on a 3-up, but you can make it a 2-up pretty convincingly because if they're coming into you, they're probably going to be near where your tokens are, so it feels pretty good. And then Strangling Grasp is also really good. Pick a visible enemy unit within 10. They don't have to be in combat, and then you just get to try the good old stuff them in the bag of roll a dice and slay a model. So it is very funny when a Vanguard comes in and you roll a 6, but I don't think you're going to see this one. That ability is not going to have too much impact, whereas the -1 to hit, I think, is very good, especially paired with the -1 wound.
What are your thoughts on the Tree Lord losing the hero keyword? I think it's liberating, but I'd be curious to see what you think.
I think it's good because it's a little bit easier to run the Monster Mash spam. I think it works a lot better with the changes to the Tree Lord Ancient. I don't really know why they made the Tree Lord a hero in the index. So yeah, I am a bit of a fan of them removing the hero keyword, because yeah, it just makes list building a little bit easier. And the fact that they can't take artifacts is, a little bit lame, but I don't think anyone ever took an artifact on a tree.
That was gonna be my point. That was gonna be my point. I'm like, why would anyone, unless it was like your only option, like you would never give it. Like you got a Durthu, you put the artifact on the Durthu as well. Like there's so many other things more deserved.
Yeah, and especially at the moment, like if you're taking a Tree Lord, you're probably taking the Tree Lord Ancient, for the rules we're about to see in a sec.
Right.
So yeah, and then anything you're going to give the Tree Lord, you just give to the Tree Lord Ancient. So
Yes. Yep. All right. Primer. Let's go. Drum roll, please. All right. Tree Lord Ancient. Can I say the rule? Is that okay?
go for it.
Awaken slumbering spirits. So, let's return your movement phase. Pick a visible terrain feature that has a friendly overgrown token and is within 12 inches of this unit. Then pick a friendly non-unique Kurnothi or Tree Lord unit that has been destroyed to be the target. Set up a replacement unit with one model from the target unit wholly within 6 inches of the terrain feature, more than 9 from all enemy units. Then remove the friendly overgrown token from the terrain feature. If the target was a Tree Lord, allocate 10 damage points to the replacement unit. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points.
What? Tree Lord recursion. Let's go.
Who would have thunk it?
Anything's possible. So now you will, as mentioned previously, you can get your triple recursion with Alariel, a Tree Lord Ancient, and just the battle traits on a Revenant in one turn, which is very funny. But yeah, that Tree Lord build with a Tree Lord Ancient feels very strong. Being able to bring back a Tree Lord, especially with the heal 3 end of every turn, plus rallies and etc. And you bring them away, more than 9 in the movement phase, so you can get that shooting off to get the -1 a hit, is really nice. And you do get the Strangling Grasp as well in range straight off the bat. So yeah, I think that's very nice. And also the Tree Lord Ancient's Rampage is also really good if you've got a big cluster of these big forest elders, which is all the big monster kind of tree models. Just +1 a hit on all of them on a 3-up is really nice. +1 a hit on Durthu's Gangbusters. And all of them have, 3s or 4s to hit. Getting them to 3s or 2s is just great. So, yeah, do think
And
maybe a Tree Lord kind of apocalypse.
yeah, definitely not going to want to let go, not take one with. So you're not going to leave home without one, and it's Wizard 2. Wizard 2 now.
Yes, that's where I think you're going to see your Spell Singer. Very good.
Very good value on that one.
It did go up to the same
280.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth it if you're bringing Tree Lords back. So, or even just bringing back one Kurnothi, to go stand on an objective is interesting. I don't know if it's going to see a lot of play, but it is funny.
It is. At least it's not costing you a CP, right? Like at least it's not costing you a CP.
Yeah,
give it that much. Durthu is Durthuing, right? Like we've got some tweaks here. The sword attack is now 5 attacks and it's damage 4. So it's almost like you gained 1 attack, but the damage profile is slightly reduced. That Guardians of the Glade rule is a very interesting one, being able to add 2 to a charge roll, but it must end a charge within half an inch of an enemy unit that's in combat with another friendly Sylvaneth hero.
Yeah, that is interesting. I do think it helps Durthu keep up with your fast hero monsters. +2 to charge is just nice if you've got a Belphanos or an Alariel or even a Tree Lord Ancient hanging around. Just here's +2, Durthu's getting in. And it also makes him a menace on the counter charge. Being able to counter charge with +2 if they're fighting a different hero is very nice, because now they're fighting both heroes, and his Ground Shaker ability is just strike last on a 3-up for infantry or cav, so feels pretty brutal for Durthu, I think.
Plus had the run and charge.
Yeah,
like
and
you would run and charge.
It's very, very good. Yeah, and the change to his sword honestly makes him more consistent than he was before, because you've got more dice, so getting kind of closer to the average, which is really good. And he'll be a bit less swingy, which I think Durthu players do not like when Durthu whiffs.
Yeah, I do. I love it when Durthu whiffs, and I'm like, phew.
Yeah, but now he's just gonna be going mental. So yeah, it's a very good kind of change.
Durthu's points didn't change, by the way. That was one that didn't change, is still straight 320. So still great value. Still I always get caught out. Like every edition, I'm like, Spirit of Durthu must be a unique character. He's not. Then you can take as many Spirit of Durthus as you want. Because it's the Spirit of Durthu, not Durthu.
Yeah, and they get +2 to charge. If you're in combat with one Durthu, they can hit +2 to charge with the other Durthus. So you could even see people rocking 2 Durthus, hanging out. The only sad thing is a Tree Lord Ancient does not bring back a Spirit of Durthu, because that would be very silly.
That sounds like an Army of Renown kind of build. It's not, just it would be great. Dryads doing Dryad things as well. Interesting rule, and obviously rewritten Blessings of the Forest. I think, Dryad's special ability is like through this being able to bring the unit back at half strength, and obviously some of that recursion, bringing back single models. That with the forest ability is pretty decent. What was the old?
So the old one was if they were wholly within range of a awakened wildwood, but now it's just the creeping overgrowth. So that's the change there. So they keep their tankiness, but you've got a whole lot more of ways to make them more annoying because you've got a lot of recursion to the unit through just the passive end of turn D3. You got the prayer from the Grove Guardian. You're doing mortals with the Grove Guardian's passive ability. And they got a free they now hit on 3s. And Dryads are still the exact same points as they were. So it's just very nice to have. I think they're going to be in pretty much every list. They feel really good. They're a big, annoying anvil. I love
especially with the
playing
strike last. Especially with the strike last available.
Yeah. And you can give them ran. You can actually make them do quite a bit of damage. If you're looking at one of those sub factions, you give them +1 attacks, +1 wound, +1 ren. Like it's 3 attacks per model, 3s, ren 1, damage 1. Like that's nothing to laugh at for your screen, basically. So yeah, I think Dryads are going to be seeing a lot of play. I think every list I've written has started with 20 Dryads. So yeah.
I was going to say you've got to take a reinforced unit. Like you just yeah, it's so good. Tree revs. What was I looking at with tree revs? Have gained their new rule, Warriors of the Woods. While the unit is in combat and is not charged, add 1 to the damage characteristic of the melee weapons. That's nice.
Yeah, this is an interesting unit. It went up in points, and they've lost kind of their staple ability for 3rd edition and the index. They've kind of been like this little 5-man squad that you'd teleport to grab an objective or do your scouts. Now they're like this defensive piece that's got 3 attacks and an extra damage if they didn't charge, which is interesting. Unfortunately, they're only 2 wounds a pop, 5-up save. Like they can just get completely rinsed before they get that extra damage. So I don't know how useful they're going to be. I do think you might see a couple of 10 blocks, but yeah, I don't think you're going to see them too often just because, the rest of the book is kind of doing what they do, but a bit better. You could have your Spirited Dirthu with your strike last, and you've got a bit of strike first. So you can pair it, the tree revs with the strike first, but it's not the greatest combo, and it's quite a lot of points. So I don't know if see them a lot.
They went up. They went up to 110.
Yeah. So 220 for 20 wounds. That's on a 5-up save. That doesn't do a lot of damage on the charge. It's an interesting defensive piece. I kind of like their change because I don't know, they didn't really look like this teleporty scout unit. They look like these warriors, and so I kind of like the change. But yeah, I don't know for that points cost how much you're gonna see them, especially with Spite Revenants having crit mortal on their weapon profile.
Yeah, pound for pound now, you've got this Dryads, Spite Revs, and your Tree Revs. I feel like you go Dryads or Spite Revs every day of the week. Like, I'm not sold on the Tree Revs personally.
Yep.
That's me, and like getting the Spite Revs, now a move of 6, and you've got the Shadow Creep ability as well. I think that is a really good ability.
Yeah, the Shadow Creep's really nice. It kind of replaces the old Tree Revs that would teleport. So yeah, I think Tree Revs might be spending a little bit of time on the shelf at the moment, unfortunately. But I don't know. It's a bit of a missable unit, and there's quite a lot of other good ones that I'm pretty happy about. So it's not the end of the world.
And Spite Revs are 80 points, so
Yep.
so like they're doing what you used to want to do with Tree Revs. Granted, you don't have the backfield teleporting that you used to be able to enjoy, especially for like some of your battle tactics. But if you need that teleporting, your Spite Revs are sitting in that slot nicely.
Yeah. So we'll jump into Spite Revs now just because they're right there and we've already started talking about them.
Oh, yeah.
They've got that extra move. They've kept their crit mortals. They are Revenant, so you can be bringing a bunch of them back or bringing them back at half strength. So it's a very good unit just for jumping around. You do have to be wholly within 3 of a terrain feature, but you do have your trees that you can set up. So you can just spread them out and, put a tree in a corner that your opponent forgets about, and then wholly within 3, and you just grab that side objective at the end of the game. And having +1 charge for when you teleport's really nice because, there's times where the tree revenants in my old games would have to like charge onto an objective and, do a bit of damage to try and take it in those clutch moments, and they'd fail because I'd roll an 8. So having that +1 is pretty nice. And having on a unit that's got crit mortal and 3 attacks each is pretty solid. So yeah, I do think you're going to see a couple of 5s or 10s of Spite Revenants hopping around, doing their thing.
Yeah, I'd probably see more 5s than 10s, but yeah, I like them a lot. Do you want to talk about your unit, the Twistfield?
My glorious boys. Yes. They are very good. They did go up 20 points, so I think the utility of spamming them is down, but they got some very good abilities. So I think most people probably have one unit, not like the 4 or 5 that I have because I'm a psychopath. But yeah, they've got that extra 1-inch move, which is very helpful. They now have removed the different weapons, so you don't have to roll 2 profiles. You just got the 1 profile, which is substantially better because they've got Rend 1 now base on all of their attacks as opposed to the 2 attacks that they had last time with only having Rend. They lost their ability but gained a different one, which is kind of crazy. Having a unit only move 6 when using non-charge move abilities is nuts, especially when you can go, cool, I'm going to cast Run and Charge on this unit to Twistfield. I'm going to auto-run them 6, so they're going to move 12 up the board. I'm going to charge, and I'm going to infest that unit for the rest of the game, and you can't move 6. Like, that can be pretty clutch and a pretty disruptive piece to your opponent's game plan. And they've also just got crit 2 hits when they charge, which is really nice. Like, they'll actually do quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, they're an interesting little play, and they're not going to be for everyone. Like the Latching Parasites is definitely an interesting rule, and it's going to take a little bit of setup. But if you pull it off,
games you.
Frustrating little rule.
Yeah, it's definitely annoying. It's not like the biggest thing in the world. Their ability in the previously the minus D3 to charge while outside of 6 was pretty pointless. But yeah, at the moment with this one can be pretty clutch. You can't move more than 6, so you can't be running and zooming around with that unit anymore. So it does feel really good. So yeah. And it's rest of the battle, so
yes.
It's just super annoying and disruptive, I think. So I do think you'll see one unit. I might bring 4 because I'm crazy, but I do think 1 unit's probably good having in your list as a bit of disruption. And they're 8 models. You can bring them back half strength. All the other buffs we've talked about before. It's just great.
Speaking of great, I think the time of the Kurnoth Hunter has returned. It's been a while since you've seen like a solid allocation of Kurnoths on the table. What do you think? Like, where are you at? Like going at the great swords, I again really like the Hunter's endurance and some interesting little rules there.
So the Hunter's endurance has basically been the swap from the Envoys of the Everqueen. They used to give a 6 up forward, and now they do the -1 rend while they're wholly within the creeping overgrowth. And then basically they're exactly the same except for the bows. I don't think I'm the biggest fan, but that's because I think I'm probably just a bit too excited about the Monster Mash and the I think the bugs are really good. I think I'm personally on the side of Kurnoth a little bit kind of left in the dust. They do some good damage. They do have a lot of buffs you can give them now, whereas previously they were locked out of some of those buffs. And so I do think you could probably be seeing your 6 swords or your 6 scythes hanging around. They're definitely like there is the potential to make them a good anvil, because I was doing some, buff synergies, and you can make them -1 a hit, -1 a wound, ignoring rend, and all that defense. It's like a 2-up save with, you can give them the 5-up ward if you've got a Lady of Irons, or a 6-up from the War Song. It just feels very strong as this big tanky anvil unit that does quite a bit of damage.
I think that's what I'm excited about, the midfield grind from this unit. I don't think I'm like back in the day when I was running, like I said, 15 Kurnos. That's not today. But I can see a world where you're running 3 or 6 of these and having some monsters to slap, having some bugs to slap as well. There's a nice little mixture here. They are 400 points if you double down on them with a reinforcement, and obviously great size at 190, so again close to it. But I think some of the unlocking of like the racist not Kurnothi, like Kurnoth, sorry, I think that that unlocking has. I don't think they're A tier, but I think they're a good consideration, especially for the new play style.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're interesting. You probably will see a couple of 6-packs around. I do think bows have gotten a bit worse from their index, which I'm a bit sad about, as I was enjoying my bow playstyle. Losing anti-hero but getting anti-cavalry feels a bit worse, because usually you want them shooting the big monster heroes. And cavalry can abuse obscuring a lot better than a monster can, because they actually get it. And the steady aim, when they don't move, they get +1 a hit, only being your shooting phase, means that your opponent has a lot more counterplay over that. Because you can't move or be set up, so you can't even teleport them. And if you're out of range with 1 or 2 bows, then you'll probably just move them, so you get that extra couple shots. But so I don't think you'll be seeing bows around, but probably a unit of swords or a unit of scythes, I think, has a bit of play with that tanky kind of anvil that you can make with them.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, like I said, like they're probably B tier, like they're solid, but you got a lot of choices at your disposal.
Yeah, and they are 400 points, and like you can get a Drycha for a lot cheaper, and Drycha's a lot more fun. So,
Or for 200 more points, you get an Alariel.
exactly right. So I think that's the issue with the Kurnoths at the moment, which has been kind of the issue most of their index book. So
Yeah, and I agree. What about your Spite Riders?
oh, this is the source. Is the Spite Riders?
Why would you say that?
They are insane. They lost anti-cavalry, who cares, but gained crit 2 hits on all their on the rider attacks, and then they've got just a flat damage too, which is really nice with the amount of ignore weapon abilities. And then you've got the damage 3 once per game. They are revenants, meaning that you can pair them with the Grove Guardian for those extra mortals if someone charges into you. But the big thing is they get strike and fade. It's also just, if you've charged this turn, do the strike and fade, so you don't have to be in combat. You just have to have charged, and then you're getting back into your home objective, and then you're setting those Spite Riders back in. You can still give them run and charge with the spell. You can give them +1 a wound, including their companion weapons. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of Spite Riders around. I think every person is going to be bringing out their 6 bugs and flogging them around the table.
Yeah, really good use of counter charge as well, because you'll be able to get them out of combat.
Yep.
Yeah, these are solid. And then you might want to, double down with Belthanos and giving them some extra bonuses there. Like, this is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think six Spite Riders are going to be in a lot of lists. They did go up points.
Went up 30. Went up 30. They're 220 now. So a unit of 6 is going to cost you 440. But, and this is the thing, right? Like when you're looking at Spite Rider Lancers versus Kurnoths, yes, they are different roles, But if I've only got 400 points to spend, I'm likely going to Spite Right. Obviously, I need 460, not 440,
Yep.
not. But like, you get my point. Like that's a good unit.
Yeah, for 40 points, for a lot of extra movement and a lot more attacks and the ability to strike and fade, it's making it very difficult to be taking the sad Kurnoths next to the Spite Riders. So yeah, do think you can see one of them around.
What about the other build, the Revenant Seekers?
They're very interesting. They've stayed at 180, which is cheap as chips, which is very nice. And they, got the same damage to flat. They're not quite as punchy as the Spite Rider Lancers, and the deafening drone, being if they do not charge on attacks, feels very good because they've kept their 2-inch coherency, so you can kind of like spread them out. So if you're running an all monster build, you can make quite a nice castle with these bugs being 2 inches apart, spreading along the front lines. People charge in, cool, your -1 attacks, and you're gonna get hit by all the monsters in my army, or even throwing them near some dryads as well for the same thing. Like it's or even those 6 Kurnoths as an anvil. I think you could see some 3-packs hanging around for 180 points. It's pretty cheap. They're probably not everyone's favorite unit, but they've definitely got some good utility as a defensive piece.
You did lose though the Thrumming with Life and Harvesters of the Lamentary, which I think are a big blow. Like obviously, like there's a lot of healing, but like losing the native heal, but more importantly as well, like the extra rally dice.
Yep.
This feels like an optional unit.
Yeah.
Like it's nice to have, but I don't
definitely. If you got a spare 180 points, you're throwing this in, or if you want to kind of have that big extra defensive anvil, but yeah, it's definitely not.
But argue though, like Zach, like for 180 points, I could get a unit of reinforced dryads.
Yeah, like I'm taking a reinforced unit of dryads every day of the week. They are fast. Like I might see if I take 1 unit of dryads, 1 unit of bugs, and they kind of do different roles. I think you could see this unit hanging out with a couple of Monster Mash builds, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be in everyone's list. And it's a little bit of tech that kind of gets overlooked when you've got a lot of other units with like very similar to the Kurnoth. Like they're sitting in that B tier. There's a few other units that just outshine them at the moment, but I do think they're quite interesting. If the army kind of goes up a lot of points, or if they could maybe even come down a couple of points, like I do think you'll see them in the future. I think they're quite interesting, but yeah, as they are now and as the book is now, you're probably not going to see too much of them.
No, I'm definitely not
especially the Spire Riders.
Yeah, I'm definitely not reinforcing the Revenant Seekers. Gossamed Archers, I've always had like a weird relationship with them, and I've never been like, I love the model, but I've never been a fan of the War Scroll, or I've always felt they're too fragile. What are you thinking about Gossamids?
Yeah, it's the fragility is the main issue. They are kind of nice as they shoot and then they move. So there's a lot of different techie things you can do with that. But now that they're forced to wound, they're not doing as much damage as they were. Like it feels really hard to take them at the moment, and like their synergy piece with the Arch Revenant feels pretty whatever. So I don't think you're gonna see them too much. However, the only thing I could say about them that is interesting to me is the Regiment of Renown with the Arch Revan 5 Gossamids. Feels quite interesting with the amount of movement you can get, and it feels like a little annoying tech piece. I haven't tested it out, but I feel like maybe if I'm running a cities build in the future, after I've had my fun, I might want to jump on that and see how they look. But the biggest blow being that force to wound just feels like they're not going to see any play, which is a shame because I have 15.
Yeah. Look, obviously they got the crit auto wound, but I don't know. I don't know. What's the range of that weapon? Is it still 12? It's still 12. That's been my issue. Like, you've got to get really close, and you're now just in really easy harm's way. If it was like 15, I could kind of see the value, but 12 inches is so short. Yeah, I mean, they've got good movement. It's just more like, how do you keep them out of harm's way? But then in saying that, that's then the role of the Kurnoth hunters with the bows, who'd be that long range threat. So yeah. And net points didn't change on those guys, so
Yeah, I think there's just better options, so probably not going to say them.
Not enough synergy. We've already talked the Awakened Wildwood, so I'll ignore that one. Manifestations.
Yeah, so the Glade Worm basically didn't change. Still does the same kind of teleport outside 3 of a wizard, but it's now added in Priest, which is,
Yes,
I believe that's a good change. Makes it a bit more accessible to all kind of opponent builds. But yeah, that one's kind of the same, does the same thing. I think the other 2 are way more interesting. The Spiteswarm Hive having a ranged profile, and if they weren't set up this turn, you can get +10 attacks, but all of the shooting attacks must target an enemy unit within 9. So you got 20 attacks with crit 2 hits, 4s 3, they're on 1 damage 1. Can actually be 15 attacks. Is pretty good for a manifestation that's free. Like, you can't hate it. It just kind of can sit there and, add a couple of damage points. So, at the start of the game when you have nothing to cast, it feels like a pretty good one to throw out. But I do think the source is with the Vengeful Skullroot. -1 a hit for everything within 6 is nuts. That is very good. It's kind of like a cogs, but it affects everything. So yeah, I think the Skullroot's gonna be like, there's now a reason to be taking the Sylvaneth manifestations, as before, they weren't very good. It'd kind of be like a whatever, I'll probably just take Aether Roar instead. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the changes to the manifestations.
Yeah, although it doesn't count as a Wildwood anymore, but I don't think you've lost that much. And you're right, like, you now can easily be getting a -1 to hit and -1 to wound. So, talking about durability, like, you can be really tanky, and strike last and all the other stuff. Yeah, there's some pretty solid stuff there. And with the Glade Worm as well, you can set it up now within 3 inches of the priest as well as the wizard. So, yeah, love that. Love that. It's going to be so valuable to, like, Fire Slayers and Khorne and Doc and, many of these armies that are mostly priest based. The stupid Pope from Cities of Sigmar sitting in the backfield, although you get that 6 months too late. Like, you could have just, like, vetoed yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's there's way more utility now being wizard and priest.
For sure. And yeah, I think pairing a Glade Worm with a Drycha that's gonna pop out of nowhere and get into combat with whatever it wants feels pretty interesting.
Then add a +2 to the charge from Durthu. It's just so much good stuff. And as promised, this is the latest that I have. No, it doesn't mean that GW doesn't make a late adjustment when they launch it to Warcom, but this is my understanding of where we're at with the rules. Although, ignore the colors. I think I've messed up with the colors because I've got weird colors. Ignore that. Use the numbers. The numbers are correct. The colors, not so correct. And then there's no changes to the faction stuff as well. So there's no cost to any of that. Unlike my Doc terrain piece, it costs me 20 points now.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's the hashtag sad. Now, there is 2 armies of renown, but I'm conscious that 1, my mouth is killing me. And 2, we've already spent almost 2 hours talking about Sylvaneth. You have some thoughts around lists, and while I'm not going to bring up a list, do you want to share any, like, some of your early thinking, and then we might just whiz bang through the Armies of Renown. By the way, obviously the Battletome has 2 regiments of Renown. So if you're playing a non-Sylvaneth army and you want to bring Sylvaneth into the army, there's obviously a Spearhead as well. And the Spearhead has the Arch Rev, Gossamer Archers, Spite Rider Lancers, and Revenant Seekers. Obviously some Path to Glory stuff as well, which is really cool. I'll let you guys, unpack that when you get your Battletome. If you're interested in like what the 2 regiments of Renown are, there is Dryker's Talons, which brings Dryker and 2 units of 5 Spite Revs. I like that. And then the Twisted Branch is of Ranch Witch and your favorite unit, the Twist Wheel. And if you want those, what's it going to cost you? Where did I see it? Dryker's Talons are 360. That's not bad. 360 for Dryker and 2 units of 5 Spite Revs. That's not bad at all. And obviously don't get like some of the shenanigans, but that's not bad at all. And then the Twisted Branch use 210. 210.
So yeah, I had a bit of a think about the points and the lists, and kind of a couple of good combos. I do really like this package because I have insane Twist World dreams of having a Grove Guardian, 20 Dryads, and 5 units of Twist World. That's bang on 1,000 points. And then you have 1,000 points of other stuff. That's an Alariel and, 6 Kurnoth, or Alariel and a Drycher and a War Song. So that feels like a pretty good package where I'm going to be starting my builds for the non-Twist World crazed. I do think that having the Alariel and 6 bugs with a Grove Guardian and probably a Belphanos feels like a very good starting combo. And then throwing in, a couple of units for whatever your flavor is, maybe 20 Dryads, feels like a very good. It just feels like a very good offensive package and a very good utility package, as you've got your 6 bugs that goes and hits stuff. You got your Alariel as doing Alariel things. If you lose your bugs, they're back. Well, 5 of them are back. And you got your Belphanos to play around on that flank. I also think, as mentioned before, I'm a big fan of the Tree Lord and Tree Lord Ancient build. I think a Tree Lord Ancient with 2 Tree Lords is a good combo, and then that's only it's only 700-ish points, so that's an Alariel in there, and then your 20 Dryads. So I do think you're going to be seeing 20 Dryads pretty much in a lot of builds, almost every build. It's just a very good anvil. So yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. I think the good thing about the list is you can kind of mix and match any of the heroes, and they kind of fill a different role slightly. So, you could easily swap a Drycher and a Belphanos around, and they do a similar role, but a little bit differently, just to suit, your play style, how the rest of the build's going. So it gives you like a lot of testing. So when if I start with a list, I'm like, I probably want something that can, be a bit more consistent on the flanks. Maybe I'll swap out my Drycher and throw in my Belphanos, or, I need a bit more damage. Like, let's throw in the 6 bugs and maybe drop the Tree Lord combo. Or, if you want, like, there's just so much flexibility with the book. I think it's great. Like, I can already think of 5 different builds that I want to test as soon as the book drops and I get my hands on the new model. So yeah, and like maybe even doing double Grove Guardian or double War Song feels very strong. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. I think there is a lot of combinations. You can still go Monster Mash if you like Monster Mash. You run a Lariel, you don't have to run a Lariel. You have a lot to play with the Tree Lord Ancient and the Tree Lords. You've still got the Spite Rider Lancers, Dryker, and obviously like between now and June, July, you obviously can still use your soggy rules as well. Granted though, is the soggy the Revenant Seekers. Oh yes. So you could in theory use the soggy Revenant Seekers right now and then still use the regular Spite Rider Lancers. So you could absolutely play into the bugs while you've got them. A lot of good little combinations there. I think you're gonna struggle to get everything you want in a list. I'm finding that with Doc. But you've got a lot of good options and good spell law, good prayer law,
Yep.
some good stuff.
Yeah, and like while the Scourge of Ghyran rules are still around, like the Soggy Drycha with the bugs is pretty good with 6 Rev Seekers. Or I also think the Soggy enhancement that gives you the once per game summon a tree is very good with the current rule set, just so you can get those overgrown tokens going as quickly as you can. Because you can have pretty much 3 out on the board turn in your first hero phase, which just spreads all the overgrown, and then you can just go nuts with it. So yeah, while it's around, it can have some good combos, but yeah.
Well, I might be a madman, but I am actively avoiding SOG, especially with my Daughters of Cain, because I want to get a true understanding of the faction and not prop it up. So obviously use it while you can, but by no means. But I know personally, I'm like, nah, no SOG. Just I want to really understand the Battletome, so I'm ready to go with the new GHB. So, but maybe
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I know there's a few people that are, got a big tournament coming up in 3-4 months. Your own Sydney GTs in October. So there's no point really playing with those rules when you can't use them if you're still trying to get that understanding. But if you've got a GT coming up before then and you want to give it a go, I do think there's a couple of good combos, and the burgeoning subfaction for that extra recursion on individual models still feels really strong. So yeah, use it while you can, and then it's gone. But remember, it's gone in 2-3 months.
Yeah, very pragmatic, and yes, you absolutely should use your rules while you got them. Don't be a weirdo like me. I'm gonna blast through this. From an Army of Renown perspective, again, you've got a Lords of the Clan build, and this is essentially you've got the Lady of Vines, your non-unique Forest Elders. So that is your Tree Lord Ancient and Tree Lord. And Durthu is
Durthu, the Grove
is
Guardian. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because none of those are none of those are unique, so they all fit in. Any Kernothi infantry units obviously can't include a regiment of renown. Without going through all of these rules, what's your overview of Lord of the Clans? And I'll go to the other page as well, so you can kind of have an understanding of this. Do you like it? Is it something that you would consider taking to a tournament? Or is this more for fun and an RTT just for lols?
I do think this one's a bit more fun and RTT just for lols. The Rouse to Fury trait that lets you bring back a Lords of the Clan monster that's been destroyed feels very good. It is a CP and it is only in the enemy movement phase, so it's a bit janky to use. But bringing back a Durthu, you can bring back your Lady of Vines, you can bring back that Tree Lord Ancient, and then you've also got the recursion of the Tree Lords just through the Tree Lord Ancient. Does definitely feel like a big monster mash build. Could be very fun. I don't think it's the most competitive, strong regiment. Army of Renown. The Baleful Lords is doing the rounds at the moment, taking names. But yeah, it definitely feels like quite an interesting kind of build. So I do like it, but it's it's fun. It's for your one dayers. It's probably, I think there's just more juice in the actual book that you're gonna want to be taking to your competitive 2-day events.
The Dominant Heroes is fun, being able to deep strike, with your Lords of Clan and stuff. There's some fun little things here that are but you are giving up a lot. I always find when you give up your faction abilities, but there's some cool stuff if you want to run this type of particular build. And this is if you took this to a tournament, I think you're probably likely to get a 2-3 or a 3-2. depending obviously your matchups and stuff, I think you'd be really hard to go 4-1-5-0 with this particular set of abilities. But run it. It's cool as hell.
Yes. And it is the one way that you can run all 9 trees. Is in the current rule set, you only really need 3. This one does let you have all 9, because you can have a lot of recursion through the trees, which is just fun. But yeah, it's, as I said, it's fun.
It's fun. It's fun. And that's what most of these armies of renown are meant to be. They're meant to be fun. They're not meant to be like top tier competitive. The other one here is the Soulpod Guardians. It's built around the Grove Guardian, the branch which your Revenant units. This one is a bit more interesting. I think I'm certainly more of a Lord of the Clans kind of guy versus a Soulpod. This is a bit too weird for me, and I'm like, why don't I just run this army in a generic Sylvaneth if I wanted to put this limitation on me? Where do you stand?
I think this is a funny build. It's not the most competitive. I was pretty excited by it, but I think the issue with this army is it has the classic, I can't set up the Sacred Grove or the 3 connected tree in every mission. And if you can't do that, then you're kind of screwed with this army. There's not a lot you can really do, and you get kind of, if you don't have it, then you're not in a good spot.
It's not as bad as the Nagash one, where you couldn't move for 2 turns, but it's certainly fighting with 1 arm.
Yeah, they forgot to give the benefit of him doing the ritual. They just made him do a ritual that did nothing, which is pretty funny. But yeah, the only can take 10 damage points per phase, while you're wholly within 12. Like, that feels very strong on some missions, but like, it's only on these 1 or 2 missions that you get it. And you know, if you pair that with the tree revenants that aren't very good, like, you can only lose 5 out of a reinforced unit, meaning that you can actually swing back with that extra damage. And also, the Song of Vengeance prayer lets you just like basically murder lust into combat. So then you can keep that +1 damage on the tree revenant. So it does feel like a bit of a tree revenant build. Yeah, I was pretty excited by it, but then I saw like you can only set it up on some missions, and I had a bit of a play around, just thinking about where can I put this tree, and I think I got to about like 4 out of 12 missions where it'd actually be good, which isn't great.
I think this feels like it would be a lot of fun in a narrative event. If I was going to a narrative kind of style, I don't want to say Path to Glory, but like a narrative campaign, I reckon this would be a hell of a lot of fun. But it's a little bit weird for a match play tournament. But hey, like, if you want to run it, you do you. I think confuse your opponent in a fun way. But no, as Zach said, some of the limitations around setting up that pod, that Soulpod growth that is so critical to this particular army of renown.
Yeah. So it is definitely a funny build. It's a narrative build, but I don't think it's hot and competitive at your 2 days. So yeah,
you're probably a 1 and 4 or 2 and 3 kind of list. It's certainly pushing uphill.
If you say that, it's gonna tempt me to take it to see how well I can take it.
Take it to Worlds, like back it up and take it to Worlds. I can't wait for they already think Australia has a weird meta. They don't need you to run Soulpod Guardians to like, what is this guy doing?
Don't tempt me. I'm a deranged mate. I'll bring all the Twist World and Soulpod Guardians, and I'll have the best time.
You take the Nagash Ritualers Army of Renown to Worlds, Captain.
Yeah, we'll take that, and the Soulblight one that makes you set up all the little graves next to each other as well, and we can have the 3 armies with the 3 terrain pieces next to each other. That would be hilarious.
So we're coming to a close, and look, I think we could clearly talk about Sylvaneth forever. By the way, if you support the channel again, you've gotten this far, thank you so much. Warfire Minis, Element Games, Gap Games, depending on if you're in Australia, UK, or America. Much appreciate the support. How are you feeling about this army? Now we've done a relatively extensive preview, and by no means we need more practice, we need more list building, we need to make sure that the points settle how we believe that they are. I think there's obviously we're on the cusp of a new general's handbook, so there's stuff that it's true today that will no longer be true. But how are you feeling moving into the next GHB, even in the current last couple of months of the GHB with Sylvaneth? Is this something you'll continue to run? Are you excited about it? Is there tweaks that need to happen before you take it to a tournament? What's the I guess the final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm very excited about this build. I think there's a couple of one dayers coming up just before Worlds that I think I'll take this to. I definitely want to play it. I know I've got another Sylvaneth player on the team that probably also wants it, so we'll probably have to have the discussion of who's best suited for it. But yeah, it's a very exciting book. It's a lot of flexibility with it. So I'm very excited to kind of see how we go forward with this kind of build. It's I can think of many different builds that probably all work, and there's probably one that's the best, but I still think the other ones do have their merit. And yeah, I'm just very excited to see it. And then you kind of get to feel the forest and feel the book just before we go into this new GHB where it's going to shake everything up. We might get a new Scourge of Gyran set of rules for the new GHB. We're not really sure where we're at with that, but yeah, there's a lot to feel, and there's a lot of different things. So yeah, I definitely think a lot of Sylvaneth players are going to be breaking out the trees again and giving them a go. So yeah, haven't seen the doc book just yet, so I'm not too sure which one I want to play, but I definitely think I'd want to have a couple of games with Sylvaneth at least.
What I will say is my glowing endorsement for Alariel. I have a glowing endorsement for Marathi. So, she is literally sitting right next to me as well. So, mummy is back. Mummy is indeed back, and that is both Sylvaneth and for Doc. So, I think it's a good time. And again, it's much like Alariel. She's really strong. You don't have to auto include. You definitely can run a competitive list without Marathi in the list. I think there's some really interesting. I guess both of the books as well. And obviously the previews happen exact same time. So if you are interested in Doc, go check that out as well. But much like Doc, you're working for it, right? Like in the past, you used to have your blood rights table, and you're working through your blood rights. Now you've got to work hard through the anointed system that they previewed on Warcom. Much like this, you've now got to work for your overgrown tokens and things like that. So I think it gives you much more flexibility. Even for Doc, right? I don't have to wait for my go turn in turn 3, especially as more people are being aggressive to me. Much like you've got way more flexibility now, and I think it's going to reward smart players and players who are reading the ball state well. So I think you guys will have a lot of fun and will unlock the limitations of relying on your wildwoods.
Yeah, definitely agree. It's going to be very exciting. Keen to jump in once these rules jump out. So yeah, I've been sitting on this book, waiting to record this and wait for the book to come out. I'm just very excited to play it.
Well, you'll be able to play it pretty soon. Zach, anyone you want to give a shout out to? Any of your homies?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to the whole Worlds team. We're doing really well at the moment. The boys are training hard, working hard. And yeah, give a shout out to my club Model Citizens and all the guys over at Gaming Arena, who do such great work. And so yeah,
We have to get we need a proper tournament in Melbourne. Like Bendigo's doing the heavy lifting. We need to get something happening in Melbourne to get us Sydneyites down. So let's do it. Let's do something.
Yep.
Zach, you've been an absolute pleasure. I hope this has been valuable, folks, to get your head around the new Battletome. By no means is this an exhaustive kind of discussion. There's going to be way more things we're going to learn and practice. You know, I've got a really good Discord. Come talk Sylvaneth with the crew. We'll learn a lot. We'll trial and error some of these things. We'll find new combinations, new ideas. I think it's a really good time for Sylvaneth. I'm not even trying to I think you're in a good spot. I think you're in a good spot, and I think you'll be set yourself up pretty well for the next GHB. And who knows, if it's wizard based and priest based, if it's crazy, like the end of third edition, and we got primal dice, great. You've got some good wizards, you've got some good priests. If it's combat focused, I think it's really good. If it's shooting focused, I think you're a little screwed. But otherwise, I think you're in a really good. Whatever it is, I think you're in a pretty solid spot. Whatever's coming out next GHB.
Yep, definitely agree.
All right. On that note, I'm going to get some painkillers because my teeth are killing me. Thank you so much for joining us, Zach. Thank you for all of your insights. I hope you found this valuable. Good luck. And I look forward to seeing how you guys unpack this book. Bye for now.
Awesome. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for hanging around until the end. I hope you enjoyed that video and you walked away with a few new ideas. Now, if you did, I would love it if you pressed like on the video, as well as left me a comment with your thoughts. The conversation will continue over on Discord, and the link is down below in the episode description. I also want to give a massive shout out to the AoS Coach patrons and YouTube members who are supporting the channel and the growth that you're seeing here. So cheers, you are all bloody legends. And until next time, don't roll a double one on a spellcast.